Hello, good morning, welcome to Ireland AM. It's Wednesday the 6th of November. Now you've been getting in contact with us throughout the morning about a whole variety of different subjects, and we will get to those comments before the end of the programme.
We will indeed. At 10:15 we're going to be helping you to bag another mid-season bargain with some more great affordable looks, all from online retailer dresses.ie.
Publin, Story Map and Reap Rewards are all brand new innovative apps to have hit the Irish market, and we'll be finding out more about them very shortly. Now, the term food intolerance is often used to describe a whole range of unpleasant reactions to food, but did you know that they are often responsible for common recurring medical conditions like irritable bowel syndrome, asthma and migraines?
Martin Healy, the director of the Fitzwilliam Food Test Clinic, is here to tell us more, along with Aisling Gill and her gorgeous 5-month-old boy Aaron, who both suffer from food intolerance. You're very welcome, one and all.
Thank you.
I'm going to be rude, Aisling, and skip across, although I could just stare at Aaron for the next 15 minutes. He's adorable. And I'll come to Martin. Martin, just how common are food intolerances, and how often are they responsible for medical conditions that we just assume, well, that's just part of my life?
It is very common, and this is, I suppose, what we're trying to highlight today, that for many of the chronic inflammatory conditions, I mean, inflammation is the hallmark of food intolerance. Like all of these conditions, from eczema to asthma to all this irritable bowel, bloating, reflux. Inflammation is the hallmark of it, and that's the one thing which food intolerance drives, is inflammation.
Does that mean that everyone who suffers with eczema or any of those skin conditions or bowel issues, that it is de facto a food intolerance? Not necessarily.
Yeah, oh yes, it does. I mean,
really?
in most of those cases, inflammation, there are two driving forces behind that, either an infection or it's an allergy, it's a food intolerance. So that's what we're actually saying this morning, Mark, is that yes, for all of these chronic inflammatory conditions, as I say, the reflux, the irritable bowel, food intolerance has a major role to play in all of these conditions.
Well, it is something that we're ingesting. Now, it may be from the atmosphere, it may be contact with modern synthetic materials, but by and large, what do we take in most? The two things we take in most: food and water and air.
Absolutely.
So those are the two most likely causes of it.
But that means that we're making ourselves sick without knowing it.
Yes, and that's the sinister side of food intolerance, is that, like classic allergy, like bang, it hits you immediately. So you feel it like, you know, say a shellfish allergy or a peanut allergy. It hits you very quickly, you feel your throat or whatever. But with intolerance, you eat that food and there's no...
This is insidious, isn't it? And progressive.
Absolutely, it's insidious.
And there will be a long period of time where you may be feeling slightly unwell or slightly off, but not enough to bother you. And then once it gets to a certain level, then it tips you over into that, no, I'm really sick.
Absolutely.
And you don't necessarily relate the end point to the beginning, so therefore it can take quite a long time to find out what it is that's actually causing it.
That's it in a nutshell, Mark. It's that insidious nature of it. We're eating it on a continuous basis. It's taking a time to build in our system, but ultimately it's slowly poisoning us.
Well, can I bring Aisling at this point, and the lovely Aaron, who is the best baby we've ever had on. He's very happy. Aisling, can you tell us about your experience of food intolerances?
Yeah, Aaron was born, he was fine for 2 weeks, but he was jaundiced for 2 weeks and he didn't eat very much. Then
Which is not unusual in a newborn.
Yeah, the jaundice went away, he started feeding a lot and he started throwing up really just constantly. And I mean, I don't mean spitting up like a normal baby. I mean, he was projectile. He could manage to get it over our sitting room door at times.
Whoa!
It was like
he's got skills.
Yeah, exactly. I brought him to my GP. My GP actually said to me, "There's no miracle cure for babies who get sick," and sent us home. It took 3 different GPs before we were even referred to the hospital. And then the hospital were just flummoxed. They hadn't got a clue what was wrong with him. There was talk of surgery.
Surgery for what?
So they did acknowledge that he was a very sick baby?
They knew he was a sick baby. They could see that from his blood tests because his enzymes and things in his blood were quite low, so they could tell that he was getting dehydrated, that he wasn't taking on enough fluid. But they didn't know why.
What surgery were they proposing?
They were scanning him to see if he needed surgery to widen the muscle in the open, or the...
Oh, the sphincter?
That lets the milk into the bowel. But the scans were coming back inconclusive. And eventually they said to me, "You're overfeeding him, go home."
So they blamed you?
So they blamed me.
Which must have hurt like hell.
Yeah, it was awful. At this point then I said, "I'm not taking that."
By the way, you were breastfeeding him?
Yes, breastfeeding him.
So the most natural form of food?
Yeah.
So you obviously that's not something that you would have looked at or would even have been thought of as a cause?
I started thinking it myself because my sister has milk allergy, so it is in my family. Some of my nieces also have it. So I actually said to the doctors in the hospital, could it be that? They said absolutely not.
They just ruled it out?
They just ruled it out.
Okay.
He had rash really bad on his face at the same time, and they just kept saying to me, it's just a newborn rash, don't worry about it. In the week then after they sent us home from hospital, he stopped gaining weight and the rash on his face really just turned into very severe eczema. So at that point, he was due back in the hospital again just for a checkup. They brought him back in. They're like, oh, okay, he's even sicker again now. He was readmitted to hospital and they agreed to do allergy tests on him, but in the meantime I had actually gone to Martin myself because the hospital
Okay, enter Mr. Healy.
Yes.
Right, Martin, you did the blood test, and what kind of blood test did you do, or what range of tests do you do, and then how do they come back in terms of Aisling and Aaron?
Now, so it was an intolerance test, and that's the first thing to say, Mark. See, this is not an allergy per se, because if it was an allergy to something, again, it hits you immediately, so it's quite obvious. But the important thing is we didn't test the baby, we tested mother. Because it was obvious that all that the child was eating or taking
is
in
her breast
is
milk,
her breast
yeah.
milk. So there's something with the breast milk, and so there's something with mum.
And what showed up, Martin?
So we showed up and she had sensitivity to gluten. She is quite sensitive to gluten, to wheat, to dairy.
Eggs.
Oh,
So
by the way, actually, sorry, we forgot to ask you this. Were you feeling ill at any stage during this period?
I've always had awful skin, always had bad skin problems, and I would have felt very nauseous, but always just kind of a mild nausea.
But you thought would you think it was part of the pregnancy or something?
No, I mean, even before I was pregnant,
okay,
I would have felt like that.
It's nothing chronic, so you just brush it under the carpet.
Well, I just feel sick all the time. You know, it's nothing major.
Right,
so,
now, let's go back to Martin again. Right.
So Aaron what was making him sick ultimately?
It was mum. Mum's milk. Mum's allergy, mum's intolerance rather, is coming through the milk, and that's what's making baby Aaron sick. So it was obvious to me, because when Aisling presented, she wanted me to test the child. I said, no, Aisling, we're not testing the child. It's the problem. It's your milk. So we tested.
Okay, so what
Aisling.
changes did you institute in Aisling's diet?
We changed her diet. We took her off the gluten, took her off the wheat, took her off the dairy.
And what happened to Aaron?
How fast and how fast did it happen?
Within a week, he was fine. Stopped
Within a
vomiting
week?
Within a week.
And by the way, what about your nausea and your skin problem? Because your skin is marble-like at the moment.
My health has never been so good. I would honestly say it's the best money I have ever spent.
Wow. And
Without a
Aaron's,
doubt.
so no vomiting,
No,
everything
just
gone?
normal baby vomiting.
So you went
now.
from needing surgery potentially to being fine just by changing your diet. It's remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah,
Very quickly, Aaron, just before we go, because there'll be a lot of people out there going, at long last, there's a eureka moment going on. Is this an expensive process?
No, it's not, Mark. It's €250 for the test. So we take a blood sample. It takes about 2 weeks for the lab.
Do you get any break on that on your Med 1, Med 2? Or
no,
all right,
unfortunately.
Okay.
And then you come back, then we go through the test results, and I build a diet sheet. We build a diet for Aisling. We tell her, look, this is what you have to avoid. This is how we interpret the test results. And now this is what you're going to have as a replacement. So we build a full, complete diet for her.
Program device.
The rest is history.
What did your medical doctors say when you told them what you'd done?
They were so sceptical. They couldn't believe it. It's just something that the doctors just don't seem to be on board with yet.
Aaron, are you feeling great? You having the chat with us? You're the most
well, your
beautiful
doctors
boy.
might have been unhappy, but you and Aaron certainly are. Martin, thank you very much indeed. It's the
Fitzwilliam Food Test.
Fitzwilliam Food Test, and obviously FitzwilliamFoodTest.ie.
Okay, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Right.
Now, coming up, we've got our second hit from fashion with dresses.ie. Some more celeb-inspired looks, all at very affordable prices. Aaron saying bye-bye.